What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Good Enough Garage's weekly bike reviews. Today we're here with a 2016 Harley Davidson Streeglide. This will be my first touring bike that I have ever done, and I'm gonna see how this is. This is one of my parents. This is my mom's bike. My dad has a Road Glide, which is a little bit different, has different fairings and whatnot, and hopefully here pretty soon I'll probably space it out, but I'm gonna try and do that one as well and see. But I'm gonna go over the kind of specifications here for a little bit. Like I said, this is a 2016 Harley Davidson Streeglide. It has the high output twin cam 103. It's 103 cubic inches. Let's see. All right, so it has a 6-gallon fuel tank. As you can see, it's pretty massive. The biggest tank on any bike that I've ridden, but it is a touring one, and has an advertised like 42 miles per gallon tank, or miles per gallon, yeah. So this one can go pretty far. Probably the furthest any bike that I've reviewed can go. It is fuel injected. It is manual, obviously, 6-speed. And let's see, the ground clearance on this one is 5.3 inches, and this is the heaviest bike that I've reviewed as well. It comes in at 810 pounds wet weight. And it's also got like the one with the most features. This actually has a stereo. This one's got stereo in the saddlebags. I don't know if they all come like that with them in there. I'll turn it on. I will say that I don't really like the infotainment system because it is pretty dated. I think even my dad's, which is a newer Road Glide, has a better infotainment system. As you can see, it just kind of looks kind of old. Let's wait for it to boot up here. Yeah, you just see kind of how old everything is, but like you can use everything. Got speakers there. Obviously, you can't hear nothing. But before I got my cardo and my helmet, we rode to a dealer about an hour away. And this was after I sold my Ninja, so I rode this bike, and you have to have the music up pretty loud to even hear in a full face helmet, and I didn't really like to see. Sorry about that. I had someone like park right next to me, even though I had all these empty spaces. But sorry. Like I said, I was riding this bike to Columbus, and in order to have listen to music with the full face helmet, you have to have it up like extremely loud. And I don't like bothering people in like normal day, everyday traffic. So that's one thing that you just kind of have to be aware about. Which I guess if you don't care about it, then go ahead. But I recommend a cardo system, especially if you ride with people. But it's also just fun to have just riding around town listening to music. But yeah, I'll just kind of go over. I think this is for the most part stock, but I believe my parents put these highway bars on. I don't know, they're sissy bars or whatever they're called on it, and I think it came stock with this, or I don't know what they come stock with. It's like Harley exhaust, but they do have the Vance and Hines exhaust, and usually there's like a big antenna here, but they put that there. And I think these are different grips as well, but I'm pretty sure that's about it. And there may be a different stereo system in it, but I think that's about it for that. These did retail new, and I assume that's what I saw. They retailed for like 20,000 or like 21,000 in 2016, which is kind of crazy being that expensive. Harleys are pretty cool, they sound pretty cool, but I don't necessarily know if I would spend that much money on a bike like that. If I was gonna spend 20,000 on a bike, I'd probably just get an H2. But depends on what you want. But yeah, I'll do a little startup here and then we will get to the riding section. So see you there. Alright guys, welcome to the riding portion of the video. Like I said, this is 2016 Harley Davidson Streeglide. Harley's always kind of struggled to start up from what it seems. I got one of my friends riding with me today. This thing's a pain to back up. Like I said, 800 pounds. And I realized I didn't give the horsepower and what numbers. This one actually had a dyno sheet, so I have that. It made 86 horsepower and 107 pounds of torque. The website I was looking at said that it made 105 pounds of torque, so a little bit more than what that had. But I'm not fully used to super heavy bikes. This pretty much weighs double any of the bikes that I've rode in my videos, and I'm hoping that the wind doesn't cause any issues. I rode this bike a couple times. I don't really like riding super heavy bikes. It's just not my preference, really. But I am down to try different bikes for sure. I just need to make sure everything is secure. How much stuff is in the saddlebags. I will say there's one thing I do like about the Harleys, or the saddlebags. I don't have to wear a backpack all the time. It's a little bit easier to do stuff. This one does have cruise control, and one thing I do like about the Harleys are their like blinkers, having them on each side. That is something that I kind of wish most other manufacturers would do. It's just a little easier to keep up with. And then the self-canceling ones, which I know that you can, I think there's like something you can get to put on bikes that self-cancel the blinkers. And while this does have like pretty much all analog gauges up here, it does have a little digital display right there. I don't think you can see it from this far back, but it does have a gear indicator, so you will know what gear you're in, which is pretty helpful. I always sort of struggle with those bikes that don't have them to know what gear I'm in. I usually am in 5th gear, thinking it's 4th, and trying to shift up, and doesn't quite work out. Now I'm a little kind of curious to see. The last time I rode this bike, the windshield actually was causing me more issues than maybe what I would have liked. So we'll see, because the wind will come over the windshield here and just kind of hit me at the top of the helmet, and it was kind of like giving me a headache a little bit. So we shall see if that is an issue. But I also do like that I can lift up my visor and no wind really comes in the visor at all. But I can kind of hear the wind and whatnot hitting the helmet. So I don't know how it is with the half helmet or even no helmet in some states, how it is. But the ergonomics on it are pretty standard for any kind of touring bike, I would assume. It's kind of sitting like almost like a normal seating position. And like I said before, it's got these like little highway pegs that you can like stretch out your legs, but I don't, my leg starts to cramp up and I don't really like them that much. Some people do. They're just not for me. That one turn back there felt a little sketchy, but I believe that it might have just been bumps in the road and whatnot, making it a little sketchier than what it really was. Or I was just taking it too fast, which is also a possibility. So, well, I'm so used to like leaning pretty hard on the bikes that Harleys you can't really lean too much. I don't really want to lean too far and end up low siding. I've seen enough Harley riders do that. I don't want to be another one doing that. It picks up over the mic, but the exhaust, like you can kind of hear it. It's not super loud like the Harley 48 was, but also I'm sitting way further ahead of the pipes than the Harley 48. But it does sound pretty good. Harleys always seem to have a nice throaty sound to them that I really wish that they would make a sport kind of bike, but with the same kind of like V-twin or something. That'd be pretty cool. Have like a throaty, almost V8 sounding sport bike. And the only one that I can think of that kind of sounds like a V8 would be the R1 and MT or MT10. They sound kind of like V8s just with their cross plane. But then again, the motors might just be too heavy for a sport bike. I don't know what that does. I will say, like, some of the other kind of features, I don't really think I can see it right now. It does have, like, I believe a phone, like a cigarette outlet type thing, maybe a USB. I'm sure with how hot it is today, we'll stop by somewhere and grab something to drink on the way through the ride. So if I do that, then I will show you some of the other stuff that I kind of forgot to show at the beginning. Alright, let's give this thing a little bit of a... see how quickly it gets up. It's pretty quick, but it is like 103 cubic inches. So, but the winds that wind issue that I was talking about earlier did kind of arise, which is still, it's not as bad at like 60, but going like 80 or something, I kind of would have to be like tucked down behind the windshield because it's hitting the top of my head, and it is not feeling that great, to be honest. Like, I don't know if the windshield needs to be higher, or hell, it might just even be better to have like no windshield at all. I think that's almost a little bit better. The bumps are all right. I haven't really hit any huge ones yet. It takes them decently. I was talking to my dad earlier, and he was talking about, you know, how touring bikes, they take bumps all right, not like super great. They're just kind of meant for like comfortability on longer distances, which I could see on something like this, riding that 120 miles in one sitting is doable. I really haven't had any issues in the long rides that I've taken, besides just the weather. The longest one I went was to the hour ride to Columbus, and it was about like 30, probably like 40 to 50-ish degrees while riding. It was like 60 if you're just standing there. And then obviously when you ride about 60 miles an hour, you can kind of take away about 10 degrees. And we weren't fully prepared. Like, I didn't have these leather gloves or anything like that. I didn't have a super thick jacket or super thick pants or anything like that. We were kind of just starting to get into I guess all season weathering, or all season riding. Ooh, about missed a turn. Ooh, it was a little, might have overshot that turn a little bit. But yeah, it was comfortable, and my hands were a little bit not terrible, like super cold, because of where the handlebars are, and they're behind this big fairing. But just riding in that weather was terrible. And then after I got my Z900, I rode another hour ride in even colder weather, and wasn't prepared for that either. And it was just terrible overall. Because the guy I was riding with, he wanted to ride, because he had just kind of gotten that bike and wanted to ride more. And it was like that was like 30 degrees whenever we were riding, and I was legitimately pissed off. my hands were so cold they were like numb, and I was just like, I just want to get there. So I just started kind of speeding up and leaving him behind a little bit. But since then, I've invested in good pants. Still don't have like the best jacket, but I do have these gloves, which are all leather. And I bought those whenever we went over to Chattanooga in the mountains. Riding in the mountains in the morning was cold. It was super fun to do, but super cold. I'll kind of go over the stereo while I'm here. So you got this like little toggle switch here. I don't know if the camera can see it, but that allows you to turn like things up. Like, you can't really hear it. It's not picking up anything. But you turn it up and down by going up and down, and then like you can change the. Let's see. Can't really find anything. But you go left and right to change the station, and you can press it in and it'll change some of the different stuff like AM, FM, and you can also hook your phone to it. It's also got navigation, and you can obviously turn it off and whatnot. But the navigation is a little dated. I think it's almost like the old Garmin's. If you remember those, you got to kind of update it with the maps and all that. It's not like Google or anything. So if you could find, I don't know how stereos are on these, if you can find one with like Apple CarPlay or Android, then I think that would be your best bet. But like, I have hooked up my phone on this before on longer rides, and it is fun like listening to your music and whatnot, but it can be a pain to try and get set up. And then you also have another toggle switch on here, and you can kind of select stuff more easily there. So it is pretty useful. Obviously, if you can get radio stations, then it'd be cool to listen to, but seeming like we're struggling finding some stations at the moment. Sorry if trying to adjust the camera. It just seemed like it was too low, and then I moved it up, and I don't know if it was too high or not. I'll see whenever we look back. Despite this bike being like super heavy, it rides pretty smooth. You can kind of maneuver it pretty easily back and forth, and you really don't have to worry about the wind blowing you really either side. The Hayabusa. I know there's some bigger bumps on this section, so we'll see how it does take those bigger bumps. Here's some right. Oh, yeah. They don't take them really well. You kind of bounce off the seat a little bit. So that ain't it's not the best taking bumps. But the seat is pretty comfortable, but it is a touring seat. And it holds you really well. I can see why people take these on cross-country trips and whatnot. But for me, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit of a masochist. I'd like to take a trip, like a long trip on a bike that looks pretty sick. But usually if it looks pretty sick, it's gonna ride like shit. So you kind of have that that issue. There's a lot of bikers out today, kind of surprising. I guess not too surprising. It is a pretty nice Sunday. I have kind of noticed, I think that is hot. I don't think that's a cover. If you're not careful, you can burn your leg on the motor there. I may have to test it and see. I don't know if it's like the Rebel that I did a couple videos ago, or you can just kind of lay your leg on it and it'd be fine. Alright, so we're getting back to riding. I don't know if you can see that right there. That is the cigarette lighter that I was talking about. So you can put like a phone charger and whatnot on there. We are fixing to get back to riding. Had to stop by old QT and get a drink. It's pretty hot while riding. I will say you got to be careful with the key fobs, because like if it's in your house you can start the engine, but if you get too far then you will not be able to. And that is not good. That happened to my dad one night. He went to a restaurant for like a bike night, and he forgot his key fob and was not able to come home. So it's best to not forget that. I usually keep it in the saddlebag that I walked inside, so yeah, so far the biggest gripe with the bike is just the wind hitting the helmet. Everything else rides fine. And I did touch that little piece right there. It's not super hot, but it is warm, so probably wouldn't wear shorts while riding one of these. Just run the risk of burning your leg. Yeah, the wind just hitting the helmet is so far the biggest issue that I've had with this. I couldn't imagine riding like 100 miles or something like that and the wind just hitting the top of the helmet, because it just bobbles your head around and it kind of hurts after a while. The brakes are pretty decent on the bike. Can't really complain. in that department too much. I kind of felt like it was a little weird, being it is 103 cubic inches. I felt like, but it is a 2-cylinder, I guess. I believe it's 2-cylinder. I would expect it to have a little more power than just 86, considering mine is which is a 4-cylinder but 900, and makes around 125. And even that XSR 900 I did last week made I want to say like 117, 115, or 107, around there. But still, regardless, made more than this. Which I don't know if the new ones have an updated engine or anything like that. I also hear that a Harley Davidson has some reliability issues. I don't think my parents really had anything. I don't really think they've done anything to their bikes besides put battery tenders on them, so that way they can stay charged. They just gotta plug it up. Which I think for any bike that you keep sitting for a while, or anything just in general, would probably benefit from a battery tender. That one hurt. That one hurt my lower back a little bit. The surprisingly, like, this bike is pretty good, like just for road riding, but it's one of the worst ones at taking bumps, which to me is a little surprising. I would think that they would have done more with the suspension to make sure that that doesn't happen. I feel like if you're touring, you're probably going to hit some bumps. That's just kind of a little disappointing that at least on this bike that they haven't. Maybe the updated ones, they've improved the suspension, because this bike is crazy enough, is almost 10 years old. But I accidentally hit the horn, but that was I saw one of my friends on a scooter. He was riding his Honda Dio. Yeah, like if I like hunch down like a little goblin and kind of be underneath like the windshield, then I'm fine. But that's just bad posture. But that wind like hits like right above my visor, and it kind of just beats me around, and it's not enjoyable really. And that's just going 60 miles an hour. I couldn't imagine on the highway. I don't know if they make one where like it'll deflect the wind higher up. Probably it's the only bike that's really ever done it. The ones without windshields don't beat the head around that bad. There's my dad. That's my dad riding his car. We got a 38 Chevy. Alright, welcome to the final thoughts portion. And I'm going to kind of go over some of the stuff. I don't know if you can see it before, but I mentioned that right there is the phone charger port on the bike. And I said that my foot kind of, or my leg kind of touched this. It's not too terribly hot, but it is warm. You do have to be careful because the exhaust is right here. So if you're wearing shorts and whatnot, then you will burn yourself. But overall, the bike rides decent. We hit a couple of bumps. Right there at the end of it, I hit a pretty big dip, and it kind of, I could feel it in my lower back. And I feel like for a touring bike, the suspension could probably be a little bit softer, which I don't know if you can adjust them or not. I haven't really looked. I don't see anywhere where there's like a quickly available adjustments on it. So I'm not sure. And then let's look at the price of like used ones. I did not do that beforehand. Okay, so just looked at these for like Facebook, and it seems like you can get them still almost close to MSRP, which is kind of crazy. Like I said at the beginning, it's staying MSRP'd at right above $20,000, and right now I just looked. I think the cheapest one I found was like 12,000, all the way up to 17 to even like 24.5, which is just absolutely crazy for a bike that has like a dated infotainment system, navigation stuff. I don't know. Harleys are just like something that's kind of just completely different. I guess touring bikes hold value for whatever reason. Overall, I think I would just give the bike a ride and all of that. Probably just be, it's an okay bike. Not terrible. It's super heavy, so if you are kind of weaker in the legs or whatever, probably wouldn't recommend it. I don't know. I just feel like there's other bikes out there that do the same thing, probably for way less money. Like even the Rebel, if you toss saddlebags on it, granted you're not going to probably get the mileage out of this, but I don't think that's really necessarily a terrible thing. I mean, it weighs half as much, can go about 120, maybe 130-ish miles to a tank. If you can get saddlebags for it, I think that's good. To me, it handled the bumps better than the Harley did. But it's all preference, really. So far, my impressions of the two Harleys that I've rode so far are just that they're kind of just okay bikes. They sound kind of cool, but I can't justify spending the $7,000 on the Sportster like I've reviewed before, and it just being kind of mediocre, riding terrible, and then spending almost 20 grand on this bike when there's just other bikes that I think are better. Like the Honda Rebel, you could buy one for 6 grand if they have saddlebags. Then you could use the extra 14 grand to make it into what you want. I don't know. It's better than the Sportster, so I can't give it a C. So B it goes. The price is kind of just crazy. I don't really think these bikes are worth that much, but they're worth about as much as anyone will pay for it. But that'll be it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, subscribe, comment what you would like to see next. Ride safe, and remember that you are good enough. See you guys later.